Now then, Vinyl Monkey here, normal service about to resume after me Van de Graaf generator experience over the last 3 weeks or so. So it's been great to, much as I enjoyed that and appreciated it, it's been great to listen to a wide variety of music over this last week or so, and back on track with the years. So this is my top 10 from 1975, and again I've split it into sort of British and European and North American, and this is the British and European section. So yeah, 1975, yeah, great year. Yeah, I was, what was I 17? I was working at the steelworks. I had a little bit of money. I think I might have just got first motorbike. I was going to live gigs at least 2 or 3 a week in the local clubs, the Lion and the Engineers clubs. Would have bands on, often very good covers bands, but sometimes local northeast bands doing their own stuff as well. But yeah, it was a great time for live music in the town. I was going up to the City Hall at Newcastle and watching the bigger stuff whenever I could, and maybe over to Redcliffe Court and Bowl or whatever. But yeah, great time for live music, 1975, and a great year for music generally. I think when you look at some of the quality of the albums I'm not including in my top 10, I mean, I've surprised myself again with this top 10. When I fished them all out, I sort of had an idea of certainly which ones I thought would be in, and I would have liked to include it. And then when I listen to them and really think about them and start trying to rank one against another, which is daft really anyway, but it's just a bit of fun, isn't it? Some of the ones I thought would be in there didn't end up in there. So albums like Alex Harvey's Tomorrow Belongs to Me, fantastic album. I think one of Alex Harvey's best, I think. Lovely, I love it, but not in the top 10. George Harrison, I like nearly all of his solo stuff. This is Extra Texture, maybe not his strongest, but a good album nonetheless. Not in the top 10. I really wanted to put Tangerine Dream in, not least because I don't have many sort of European, you know, other than Irish bands in there, and these were pioneers, you know, some of the early electronica stuff with their rudimentary synthesizers and all the rest of it. But lovely headphone album though that is, Rubicon. It's not in there either. Elton had great albums out every year in the 70s, and this was no different. Captain Fantastic, great album. I haven't put it in my top 10. I love Procol Harum's 70s output. This one the critics panned a bit, Procol's 9th, but I love it. I love the sound of this album. From the opener, Pandora's Box, I just think it's got a really good Procol-y sound. Yeah, lovely. Not in my top 10. Macca's Venus and Mars, followed on from Band on the Run, which was obviously superb, but this is a good album as well. Not in there. Mike Oldfield, well, I didn't expect him to be in, to be honest, but some people like that one. Bolan's Gun, not his strongest, but some good stuff on there nonetheless, and still a favourite of mine right up until his death. Absolutely loved all of Mark Bolan's output. And Kevin Ayers' Sweet Deceiver, Kevin Ayers' ex-Soft Machine founding member, not in there. He might pop up later in this video, Kevin Ayers, in one way or other. So who is in the top 10? Well, here we go, let's crack on with it. At number 10, this is Ian Hunter. Ian Hunter's first solo album after leaving Mott the Hoople, and this is just a cracking glam rock album. Side 1 is absolutely superb, from the opener, Once Bitten, Twice Shy, right through to the sort of epic track Boy at the end of side 1. It's a really just cracking glam rock album, and he's roped in Mick Ronson on this, and Mick Ronson is all over it in terms of the sound, in terms of the guitar obviously, but production and arrangement and all the rest of it. And it's a really strong LP, a cracker. Ian Hunter, number 10. Number 9, this is 10cc, the original soundtrack. 10cc, just 4 absolutely brilliant songwriters and musicians. So yeah, Eric Stewart, Kevin Godley, Lol Cream, Graham Goldman, and within that, although they did combine in some different combinations occasionally, two main songwriting teams, Godley and Cream and Stewart and Goldman, and there's the band in the middle there, and coincidentally, and I don't suppose you can spot that on this camera, but that's Eric Stewart, who sang on I'm Not In Love, but in 1975 I looked very much like Eric Stewart from 10cc, or he looked very much like me, and I remember going in the chip shop where my mum worked, and the lasses who were serving in the chip shop said, ooh, it's him out of 10cc, isn't it? So anyway, it's a bit of a desperate attempt to, I don't know, what's it called, bull myself up. Anyway, 10cc, brilliant songwriters, brilliant musicians, some great songs, very cool, very clever, too perfect for rock and roll. I don't know, it's just art rock, it's clever stuff. I don't play it a great lot, I'll be absolutely honest with you. It's not a gritty rock album, it's a slick, cool, perfect art rock album. Obviously includes the superb I'm Not In Love, and then the other single from this, Life Is a Minestrone, but it's just a very, very slick, good album. My number 9, 10cc, the original soundtrack. Number 8, this is David Bowie, this is Young Americans, and I think from what I understand Bowie had spent the sort of year preceding this pretty much consistently listening to American soul, particularly Philadelphia soul, and this is just a great soul pop album. It's a good album, it's all very, very nice. It's got great session musicians on there, and there are two great songs. I think if there were more great songs it would have been higher up my list, but there are two fantastic songs. The title track, Young Americans, and Fame, the other single from the album, are just superb, really, really strong. So that's my number 8, David Bowie, Young Americans. My number 7, and I've been converted, or I don't know, perhaps contaminated. This is Van de Graaf Generator, and I sort of hinted that I'd maybe had enough of listening to them, but I definitely have been converted. I've been opened up to their unique prog sound, I think, and this is one of their strongest albums. And if you want to hear more about their albums, watch the video that I put out last week on reviewing and introducing Van de Graaf Generator, or better still, listen to people who know much more about them than I do, and there are some of those on YouTube as well. But this is God Bluff. This is once you get past Peter Hamill's singing style, which I talk about in the other video, is really quite difficult for me for a whole load of reasons. But once you get past that, this is just a great album. It's just 4 songs, they're all good songs, and some of the musical passages in here, they're angry, occasionally discordant, really different. I love the sort of passages at the end of side 1 and the beginning of side 2, but it's a really different album. One of Van de Graaf Generator's top 3 in my view. This is God Bluff, my number 7. There's Van de Graaf Generator, by the way. This is a reissue, recent reissue, but the sound on it's good, sort of from the famous Charisma reissues, 2021 I think. But anyway, it's a nice sounding reissue, and there's the members of the band there. Peter Hamill, David Jackson on sax, Hugh Banton on keys, and Guy Evans on drums. And although it shows you Hamill playing the guitar there, you can hardly discern any guitar on the album. It really is up front with those other 3 instruments, the sax, the keyboards and the drums, and that gives it, or partly gives it, that unique sound. Good stuff. God Bluff, Van de Graaf Generator. My number 6, here's John Cale again. I think he was my number 1, wasn't he, last time? Was it 74, 73? 74, I think, with Fear. And this album, this is Slow Dazzle. This might not be quite as strong as For You, but it ain't far off, in my opinion. It's a brilliant rock album. Once again, it stars the sort of some of the members of Roxy Music, with particularly strong contributions from Manzanera and Eno. And yeah, it opens with a brilliant tribute to Brian Wilson. It includes probably one of the best covers of an Elvis song that I've ever heard, when he covers Heartbreak Hotel at the beginning of side 2. And then the really sort of bitter, hard-hitting song Guts, where he opens the song with the words, what was it, the bugger in the short-sleeved shirt fucked my wife, which was a reference to Kevin Ayers, who had slept with Cale's wife immediately before going on stage when they were appearing in, I don't know whether it was in Cardiff actually, but anyway, this is just, a great rock album, but Cale's beautiful, rich voice dominating right through it, and strong songs all the way through. So Slow Dazzle, John Cale, my number 6. My number 5, this guy is a real one-off. This is idiosyncratic folk rock brilliance, really. Roy Harper and HQ, and there's the man himself, Walking on Water, Roy Harper. This is perhaps, I think, of the albums I've got of Roy Harper, this is my favourite. It starts off with a brilliant opener, The Game, and the album finishes with another great song, When an Old Cricketer Leaves the Crease. And between there's just, really, really great, different songs backed by some great musicians. I mean, Harper was really hugely respected. He does pop up on one of the later albums here as well, but he's really respected by other musicians, and that's demonstrated by those that appear on here. Chris Spedding, Dave Gilmour, John Paul Jones, Bill Bruford, and others. Brilliant stuff, different stuff. Roy Harper, HQ, my number 5. My number 4, well, for some people this Led Zeppelin album, Physical Graffiti, is Led Zeppelin's best or close to their best. For others, it maybe, there's an argument it maybe would have been better being a single album rather than a double album, and I'm firmly in the latter camp for that. I do think, although this has got a really good Zepp, relaxed feel all the way through it, it's maybe a bit more relaxed and loose than some of their other albums. It sounds great. I do think it sort of rambles, and it's a little bit variable, and not as cohesive, and not as outstanding, which it would be hard to be as outstanding, I think, as their first 4 albums. So for me it would have been better as a single album, but I've got it right up there as my number 4, mainly because of the magnificent side 2 with the 3 tracks, Houses of the Holy, Trampled Underfoot and Kashmir, one after the other, bang bang bang, 3 absolutely brilliant tracks. My number 4, Led Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti. My number 3, Jethro Tull, Minstrel in the Gallery. This is hard rock meets medieval English folk, and effortlessly melding from one to the other many times within the songs, it's definitely in my top 5 Jethro Tull albums. I think it contains all the elements that made Tull such a brilliant group in the early mid-70s. The title track is absolutely superb. This album, it's obviously there's the front cover. The back cover is upside down. I don't know whether was that standard on all the Minstrel in the Gallery albums, or have I got an odd one, or is this a rarity or something? I don't know, but it's anyway. Yeah, the title track, Minstrel in the Gallery, absolutely fantastic. Baker Street Muse, a sort of 17-minute sort of mini sort of epic, a bit on the lines of Passion Play, a little bit on side 2, superb, and I love the really quiet acoustic Requiem that closes side 1. It's just a lovely Tull album. Doesn't got any of their most famous and big hitting tracks, no hit singles as far as I can remember anyway, but one of their top albums, definitely in my top 5 Tull albums. And my number 3 from 75, Jethro Tull, Minstrel in the Gallery. My number 2 is, and I've mentioned him already once tonight, Brian Eno, Another Green World. And this is, I suppose it's the beginning of Eno going into sort of ambient electronic music, creating these beautiful imagistic soundscapes, absolutely gorgeous stuff. An example is the theme music from Arena, which is the title track on here actually. It's mainly instrumentals, but there are some sort of poppy songs on here like I'll Come Running, which are really well done, backed up by some superb musicians, which includes Eno, it's Eno's bloody album, which includes Phil Collins and Robert Fripp. I love the track. I wish I put my glasses on. The writing on the back of here is really small, and it's what's it called? Zawinul Lava, another short instrumental on side 2. If I've got one criticism, it's absolutely beautiful to listen to. It's just a sort of like a beautiful soft pillow around the ears. It's just gorgeous. If I've got one criticism, it's that they get into these beautiful instrumentals and they're all over far too quickly, 2 or 3 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes, whereas I feel that some of those tracks could have sustained for 15-20 minutes and been perhaps more effective. But it's Eno sort of breaking new ground really, and starting off on this sort of ambient rock sort of journey. Gorgeous stuff. Eno, Another Green World, my number 2. And my number 1, I didn't think this would be my number 1, but I don't think anything's stronger than it in my collection or preferable to it really. And it's not one of my favourite bands, but this is Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. I think this is Pink Floyd's best post-Syd Barrett album. Every track on here is a great track. I think the album is much warmer and more cohesive than Dark Side of the Moon and some of their other albums which preceded this and which succeeded it. I think Gilmour's guitar playing is at its best. I think the title track is just absolutely superb, and as I say, the whole thing just works from beginning to end. Roy Harper does pop up on here and sings on one of the tracks, but yeah, just brilliant stuff. Floyd at their second stage, Floyd at their very best. That's Wish You Were Here, my number 1 British and European from 1975. Okay, well thanks for listening. Hopefully next week I'll go on to 1975 North American LPs, but cheers.